Hello and welcome to our review of X-Men 97. So, give me your general thoughts, buddy.
General thoughts. A bit of backstory. I watched all of the old X-Men in preparation for, well, not really in preparation for this. I just sort of thought I may as well watch it because I assumed that there would be a lot of references to it in this series.
Yeah.
And to be fair, there are an awful lot, but you can also kind of watch it as a standalone thing because you haven't, did you? You haven't watched.
Yeah, that's what I did. I didn't go back and watch the old cartoon. I just jumped straight into this season, which I know it does take place right after the original ends, I believe.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it didn't.
I think
I wasn't lost. So.
Yeah, no, you can kind of watch it as a standalone thing, but I also think it kind of rewards people who have seen that with a lot of like bringing in characters. You kind of go, oh, it's you from that series, from that. So yeah, I think this is amazing. This was incredible. I think the old series as a whole is all right. Series 4 was pretty solid. Everything else you have like the old. It's a lot more chaotic compared to this. This sort of like has the chaos, but it sort of had like a main sort of story throughout, and everything kind of happened and they came together at the end. Whereas like the old series is just a mess. You'll have like blocks of like say 3 or 4 where it's like I think it's like a Days of Future Past, for example, is like a 4 episode thing where it's kind of like a story overall. But yeah, the old sort of series in comparison isn't really, it's all right, but this was it's incredible, Dan.
Yeah, I think the original is more of a product of its time, isn't it? I think if you grew up with
100%.
it, you really have a lot of nostalgia for it. But that's kind of the reason I didn't watch it, because I didn't want to start it and be like, this is kind of boring, and I don't really want to finish it. So I jumped straight into this, and yeah, it's fantastic. Like, I'm not really one for TV shows that much, if I'm being honest. You'll probably notice that the more we go on. I'm not the biggest TV show person, but this was just like, I finished it in a day. I know, what was it, 10 episodes, I think? Roughly 40 minutes each, roughly about 40 minutes each.
I think so.
Yeah, I just binged straight through it. I absolutely loved it. It's emotional when it needs to be. It's got a good sense of humor. It's got a lot of heart. And it's got some fucking awesome action scenes. So let's jump straight into it. Let's just get on it. Cool. So yeah, from the beginning, if I remember correctly, it kind of takes place that Charles Xavier died in the original. Or so we think.
So no. No, he never died. So the whole sort of thing was that he basically the sort of rebels that we see in the start. So you have that sort of like rebel militia sort of group. They gradually over time sort of like found a like anti-mutant thing sort of thing that they shot. So he basically got shot with this like anti-mutant thing that stopped him being a mutant. So it was gradually just killing him. So it was gradually killing him. So they took him to Shala. I can't remember it is. Where Lalandra. So where we find him. So yeah, he went off there. So but he didn't. He never actually died. They basically came down and were like, he needs medicine not from this world. He needs alien medicine to keep him going. So he went off with those and left the X-Men with where we are now, with Cyborg in charge. So yeah, we literally start with the Sentinel. No, they're saving Roberto. We get introduced to. So Roberto is a complete new character. Who is Dan?
Sunspot.
That's the one.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So this is the first introduction to him. So he's kind of like the new character of this. It's slightly based around, sort of, especially in the start.
Yeah, so I'd say
episodes.
I'd say the first half of the show is more based on that, but then as we go on, it's just more based around the entirety of the X-Men and the fight that they have to fight, essentially. Realistically, when you look at this show as a whole, it's nothing that hasn't been done before. Like, it's a very basic structure. It's the X-Men versus a bad team. That's literally it. With some other little bits and bobs, but it didn't need to be anything else. I think the way this works, it just works perfectly. Obviously, as I said, I haven't seen the animated show, so I couldn't comment on any of these characters. All I know is the live action characters. So for all I know, they could be very, very different. Obviously, if I'm comparing it to live action, someone like Cyclops is drastically different, because Cyclops in the live action films was almost treated like a bit of a joke, whereas in this he is the group leader.
I generally think this is probably the only thing I've watched it where I've genuinely liked Cyclops.
Yeah, he's so good in this.
Like in this, I think in the series, he was just a bit of a whingy bitch, really, throughout it. He really was, though. He's just kind of like, he's such an idiot throughout. It's just like, you'll meet a new guy and he's instantly like, I'm going to kill you. And they're like, no, it's your father. And he's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's just like things like that happen all the time. He's just like, ooh, you're a bad guy. Ooh, I'm like the good guy. And you're just a bit like, oh, fuck off, mate. But this, like, they actually give, like, him and Jean Grey, because even Jean Grey sucks. Like, as much as she was in this series, fantastic. But as much as like in the sort of previous series, if you have a bit of like the Dark Phoenix thing, which probably, to be fair, they probably do the best Dark Phoenix
100%,
in this series and in the previous animated series of like the live action Dark Phoenix is stink. But yeah, she's great in this. So I think the fact that they made them, they almost just make everyone more human.
Yes, yeah.
As much as they've all got powers and stuff,
I completely
they feel more like it is more emotion, isn't it? They're acting as people would act.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest highlight of the show. Really, the way they do their characters is amazing. Now, I'd say if there's, what was there, 10 episodes? Let me just double check. Yeah, so technically 10 episodes because the last one is a 3-parter, isn't it? I think most of them have an action scene in them, but that's not the best part of the show. Like, the action is really good when it's there. I love it. But I actually think the family dynamic and the characters, how they use them in this show is so good. And this didn't feel like just a cartoon you put on for kids and you kind of enjoy it. This felt like you're an X-Men fan, but if your kids are there too, they're going to really like it too. Even though I think it's a 16s on Disney Plus, if I'm correct.
14,
something
I believe.
Like that.
It's something like that because it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Like there's no, I don't think there's like any swear or anything like outrageous like that.
I think Wolverine says piss off or something like that, and he says crap and stuff like that. There's
so it's like there's little bits, but as far as like the actual action scenes, there's a lot of like really brutal scenes.
Specifically towards the back end, like there are some bits that I was not expecting, and it goes pretty hard.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I think the fact that everyone kind of has their time to shine as well in this, like they really go in depth with different people and the different relationships and stuff. So we have, for example, Roberto and Jubilee throughout this. Kind of, they're the two youngsters of the group because Jubilee's always kind of been sort of not the outcast, like, but she's always been like, there she is, kid, like, how's it going, kid? She's always kind of been, anytime someone's giving her attention, she's attached herself to them, and it's kind of nice to see they've given her someone her own age, they can both kind of understand each other.
Of course, yeah.
So they have a nice little arc going through it. Obviously we have the whole sort of thing with Cyclops and Jean Grey.
Yeah.
Sort of don't
it's
really
such a
know.
Good storyline though. Like it's
such a great story.
It's so intriguing. When I saw it kind of kicking off, it's so good. I love it.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because obviously we start off with Jean Grey and Cyclops. Jean's pregnant.
Yeah.
So they're having a baby and they both kind of want to get out. Like their whole thing is, I think we're done as far as X-Men, as far as this whole thing's concerned. I think we're done. We're going to try and go our separate ways.
They just want their kids to have a normal life, essentially, don't they? Which is understandable in this world.
Yeah, which is really cute. And then, like, that, I mean, it's chaos. Like, from what happens there, I think it's probably episode 2 where...
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's either episode 2 or 3 where you just obviously. Oh no, it is. It's episode 2. Yeah, I'm reading up on it.
Yeah, because I think the end of the first episode is basically like it's the first episode very typical. Like here's the X-Men. I think the best thing about this is with the fight scenes especially is the fact that they combine their powers together.
Yeah.
So like Cyclops will be like on someone's back flying, or they'll use Gambit's power to to improve their powers and things like that. And I love the fact that they properly teamed up to do stuff. But yeah, the first episode is very much like we're the X-Men, we're saving the day, woohoo! And then we get the whole thing with turns out Xavier left the X-Men in charge of Magneto. So Magneto is the new leader of the X-Men, which is a nice little way to start it. It's like, here is everybody, here's Magneto. I mean, Magneto is sick.
Oh, he's insane. Well. Yeah, he's great. I love it.
So it's a nice little intro to that. And then, by the second episode, then we've literally got 2 Jean Greys.
Yeah. And again, I just think that the storyline they chose for this is really, really interesting because, again, I only really know X-Men from the live action films. So I don't think they've done any of this in live action. I don't remember seeing anything like this.
No, 100%. No, this is the first time.
That's what I mean. It's a really interesting one. And I think it's in episode 1 of this show, literally. you, this is what got me hooked, is that shot with all the X-Men come in, and obviously he says, "To me, my X-Men." It is fire. The theme song plays, honestly, goosebumps. I was like, yeah, I'm locked in. I'm here.
100%.
It is so good.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. So we have that sort of arc then where we have Madeline Pryor.
Yes.
The right last name, right? Madeleine something.
I don't have it here, but I'm going to trust.
Okay,
you.
So it's
Madeline Pryor.
Madeline.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So basically, it was she's a clone from Sinister.
Yes.
He cloned Jean and made Madeline, and somewhere along the line, he's allowed Madeline to go off, and he's sort of been controlling her. Like, it's a bit confusing as to where this exactly happened, but basically, Madeline and Cyclops had a child together while Jean was not there. So, like, there was a whole thing. I think, I know what it was. It was from where Jean became Dark Phoenix, ended up like crashing down Earth. Sinister took her, like in previous series, and she's been Madeline for probably about 2 of the previous series, and now here. There's been a few years. There's a whole thing that, isn't it, where like Cyclops is still kind of in love with Jean, but obviously he now has a child with Madeline. So like I think that whole dynamic, especially the later episodes where they have Madeline has gone into their mind. And like him and they're almost like
it's almost like cheated,
fucking.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's almost
it's like they're cheated, but they're like together in brain. And then like Jean comes in and she's just like, "What are you doing?" It's so smart the way they do that. Like
it is.
Which obviously, I mean, we may as well say now, the child ends up being
Cable.
Yeah,
which is cool.
As
I said, like I keep repeating it, but with only having live action knowledge, I only really know Cable from Deadpool 2. So when they kind of revealed, I think in Deadpool 2 they say he's the kid of Jean Grey and Cyclops. I feel like, but I might be wrong, because I did know it, but then when they kind of said it in this, I was still shocked. But the way they do the storyline is always so refreshing and interesting that it kept me on all the time. And this show's filled with massive cameos. Like I wasn't expecting it, but it's got cameos from across the universe. So like I don't know in the second season if they're just going to bring all these characters together and have this crazy story, but it feels mad for that to be the season 2. I mean, like I understand this is kind of technically season 6 realistically, but with X-Men 97 it's season 1, isn't it? So setting up for a season 2, that just sounds fucking insane. Like,
fascinated, So Cable is a big part of the previous series as well. So he kind of jumps in and out quite a lot. There's a big like time loop thing going on. So it's not as if this is the first introduction to Cable. He has been a part of it, but obviously this is the first time where it's been revealed that he is literally his son. So I think that's a fascinating story. But I think if we're being, and I'm just going to do it now. The MVP of this entire series is Gambit.
Yeah, he is.
It really is, because I think it's one of those things where he was very much a side character. I've always loved Gambit. I just think he's just cool as fuck. Like, I think the fact that he's just like this sort of French American-y sort of like, I don't really know where he's from. His accent.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a bit of a like it's never really explained as to like where he's come from and like his background, but he's just this cool guy. He's just got this sort of like, I don't even know what his powers are really.
They can't
sort of like can like he can just like make cards and make things explode through his body. But this is like the first time where they give him his time to shine. And his whole sort of arc with Rogue, I mean, it's been such a frustrating story because I've been watching this for like 4 series, and this has been like a culmination of the whole of the Fire series, because throughout it's constantly been a whole thing where Rogue obviously can't touch him because she takes people's powers and stuff. So there's always been this thing where they've always been in love, but Rogue's always struggled with it because she can't get physical with him. And I think that for him to be in 5 episodes. And for him to have stolen the show completely. And I mean, I think that 5th episode is just the best.
It's arguably one of the best TV show episodes I've ever seen. Because I was watching it and I'd seen people on TikTok going on about how good this episode was. So I was like, right, okay, I'm building up expectation. I don't want to be too hyped for it, just in case it lets me down. Within the first few minutes, I was like, okay, I can see this is clearly a very action-centric episode, and they're on Geneva at that point, and it's really good. And then you get that middle action scene, which is just fucking insane. And then obviously you get the big emotional kicker in it, which is very, very sad. But it's just so well handled. It's beautiful to look at as well. I think that's one of the big things with the show. The animation is unbelievably beautiful. Like, I thought Invincible looked really good, but this looks fucking awesome. Like, I mean, it looks beautiful.
And I mean, for this to be halfway through, so this is almost like a series of two halves, really, isn't it? Because you have the first half where everyone kind of splits up, kind of goes to do their stuff, but it's all leading to this thing in Geneva, isn't it? Where everyone's going to go to Geneva, and we're going to be like, this is where the mutants
paradise,
can live
essentially,
in
isn't
peace.
it?
Yeah. We can live in peace without people. The humans are still sort of shunning them, and Magneto, I think, has always wanted that. He's never trusted humans as much as he's always, Charles keeps convincing him like it's okay. They keep letting him down, so he's just like, look, we're going here and we're gonna live our lives here, like fuck the humans.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that they bring all these characters together in Geneva, and I mean, obviously the big one is that we have the end of the series where Gambit basically risks his own life and ends up probably, I'm not going to say like 100% because we do get a little bit of the end, but probably sacrificing himself.
Incredibly sad as well.
Oh my god, it's such a... And I was fucking devastated because it was like my man's finally getting his time to shine, and then they've gone and fucking killed him, you bastards. But yeah, it's incredible because there's like a giant sentinel. So I think I can't remember the exact name, but he's like a main sentinel has come and he is just dismantling. But I mean, they kill off like so many people. It's as much as the whole thing is that Gambit basically sacrifices himself, gets stabbed, and his powers, because it's like the stab was inside him, his powers end up moving into the sentinel and exploding him, which is just such a fucking sick scene in general.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, so he dies. I think it's like Emma Frost and something Shaw. Those two. Yeah, those two die. There's like there's a couple from, I can't remember, but I see they probably kill off at least like.
Oh yeah, no, I mean they decimate this place. Like the place basically
sort
explodes.
of side characters, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that whole sort of thing where they just goes from this like paradise to destruction with the Sentinels, and this is episode 5.
Yeah, and I mean we've got like, 5 episodes left up to this.
Yeah,
and I think this is the peak of the season. Like,
no, 100%.
It's such a but the show doesn't get bad from here. Like it's still fantastic.
No.
And I think the trilogy of last episodes are fucking insane. I think it's episode 9 that is like the full action set piece. It is wild. Like it is crazy, and I loved watching it. It's just absolutely nuts, and I love it.
Yeah, so there's like a whole sort of backstory going throughout in it where it basically ends up being that it's Sinister, isn't it? Sinister, and remind me, Daniel, what is his name? There is another man. Have you got the thing up there?
I have got the thing.
You just have a quick look for me, because it's not Paradox, is it?
No, it's not Paradox.
It is another man who's sort of like doing... So basically, it's like Sinister is working for...
I cannot find it here.
With it anyway. Now, what is his name?
I'll edit it in.
There is, so basically Sinister's working for a guy who's like the main sort of antagonist, isn't it? God damn, that's really going to frustrate me, that is, that I can't think of his name.
It's not Trask, is it?
No, so Trask is the one behind the Sentinels. So they're tracking Trask, because it's like a whole sort of like whodunit, what's going on here, isn't it? So they're tracking Trask. Trask was actually working for this man. I cannot remember his bloody name. No, and then Sinister ends up working for him as well. So yeah, we've got like this sort of like thing of this was all going on, and this is the reason the Sentinels have got involved, and like all the rest of it. Yeah, so we kind of have the Xavier comes back.
Yes.
And they get the X-Men back, and I think to kill off an X-Man for the X-Men to sort of be like, right, because obviously you've got the whole Cyclops thing is thinking of leave, and a few of them are sort of like splitting off a bit, and this kind of brings everyone back together, doesn't it? With a cause sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so that whole sort of the whole second half is them basically going after Sinister and Man.
Yeah, and Man.
Whatever his bloody name is, which is going to really frustrate me because I'll find out later. I'll be like, oh yes, it's
yeah,
him.
that was it. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
it's very annoying, but
the Man. So yeah, they basically I think the second half is it's great, and it's more of X-Men action, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's
Second
wild.
half.
It is wild.
I
But
think
one of my biggest takeaways from this whole show is the fact that I'm so annoyed we've never had Jubilee in live action. Like, that's criminal.
we have.
There's like a
she's always
cameo, isn't there?
Yeah, really underwhelming. Like,
Yeah, I mean, give this character a big part because she's so good here.
great.
She delivers
Yeah,
some of the
she's
best emotion through the show with her and Sunspot, especially towards the end
Yeah.
when you have the mutants kind of generically picking the side like they always do. It's, are you for mutants or are you for
of
humans?
course.
And that comes back
Yeah.
into play. And there's such a good arc there. I love it. And they could do that. They've obviously done it in live action, but I don't know why she's never been present. It's really weird.
Yeah, I know, it's quite disappointing, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like, especially with this now, and where we've got with Deadpool.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be giving the X-Men, especially live action, a lot more time to shine.
Yeah, I
And
think so too.
I think she's probably the next big one to come back, or to come into live action. So yeah, I'm really fascinated to see how they do that.
Yeah, me too.
Because she is class, and I think the fact that you've got that different thing with her, where she's a child.
Yeah.
She is. I mean,
really
she's not.
sweet.
She's
really
probably.
wholesome. She's a really good.
Yeah.
It's a good character because, yeah, as you said, she's kind of childlike, but she's I think it's her 18th birthday in one of these episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
again,
think
she's
so.
just that kind of sweet, wholesome girl that she wants to look after Roberto, and it's a really good, just a solid story. I loved it.
And I really love her relationship with Logan.
Yeah,
Especially,
yeah,
Logan is such like a father figure for her.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute because obviously you've got Wolverine, which I think something we need to touch on is the fact that this isn't a Wolverine series.
Yeah, so
In the slightest,
I
which is
kind of
great.
loved that. Like, so
Yeah.
with the films, they obviously made it Wolverine and the X-Men. That's
X-Men, yeah.
X-Men. But with this, he's in it, obviously, but he's barely ever at the front and center. I'd say, obviously, towards the end, there's something that happens where I think it's really massive for him. But he's never the main star. It's usually Cyclops or Jubilee, like genuinely, or Magneto.
Yeah,
I'd say
and I
those
think
are
they
the
kind
core.
of. Yeah, and they to be fair, even in the old series, it's exactly the same. Really, like it is very much Wolverine and the X-Men.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really nice to see that they've kind of allowed him to take a bit of a backseat because everyone knows everything about him. There's nothing.
Yeah,
really...
I mean, there's no stone left unturned with him, really. We know everything to do with Wolverine at this point.
And his backstory is pretty much the same as it always has been with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think. Do you want to touch upon some of the cameos we get? So some of the stuff that we're going to be getting, hopefully.
Yeah. So
in the next
obviously, I think there's a list of the cameos here. So it's kind of wild. At one point, you get Hulk because Morph turns into Hulk.
Oh.
Morph turns into Hulk.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so we get that.
Yeah.
Then you get Captain America. You get basically the Avengers base. You get Iron Man. You then get, was it Doctor Strange? Yeah, he's in the hospital working on like doing something. Then do you get Spider-Man?
So yeah, it's basically
Yes, you do
towards
get
the
Spider-Man.
end when the world is almost, it's not really coming to an end, but there's like a lot of stuff happening globally.
Yeah.
Is when they just sort of have these scenes. I think it's the last two episodes where they just kind of have these scenes where it's like, here's Spider-Man, here's Iron Man,
Daredevil.
here's Daredevil.
I was so excited when I saw that. I
Yeah,
literally
the last
screamed.
episode.
So
Here's like
good.
Daredevil. Here's Doctor Strange. I think we might have Thor maybe.
Yeah,
At one point.
at this point, you just get a load of random people. Like you get Thunderbolt Ross as well and stuff like that. Like just
so they
big,
just
big
sort of, like,
characters.
Yeah, which would be great going forward. I think, as you said, like it's very exciting. As much as, obviously, by the end of this series, it's kind of thrown everybody into a time loop, basically.
Yeah,
where
I
it's
actually
sort of-
love the ending where people are just kind of thrown across different times of existence, which is super cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
it's a really cool ending, isn't it? Where like they're basically the ship is this spaceship is coming out of the sky and it's going to kill all of humans.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill everyone, but it's almost like a meteorite hitting this, where it's basically going to wipe out. I think it's like America, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah, essentially.
Wipe out America.
Yeah.
So all the mutants, all the X-Men, just basically risk their own lives. They're very much like, we will stop this meteorite, and everybody will be saved. So it's a nice way to end, where I think the whole story throughout has been, again, very typical X-Men. The humans don't really like the X-Men. Yeah. We don't really like mutants. It's all a bit weird. But I think for them to go, we're risking our lives for you to keep you lot alive. The humans are kind of finally being like, okay,
I see.
They're good people. And then we get, just a massive like time loop where, well, it's basically where Cyclops and Jean end up splitted up and end up in the past.
Yes, so they're in like Egypt.
So they end up, so they end up in the past, which is the whole sort of tease of
Apocalypse. Yeah, which is sick.
So they're back in Egypt, and then the rest of the boys end up in the future.
Yeah,
with a young Cable.
Yes, I believe so. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so basically there's like a little story going on where Madeline Pryor, in the whole attack of Geneva, ends up dying. There's Cable keeps trying to save her, but he just cannot. There's something in the time loop, isn't it, that will not allow him to get to her in time. It just keeps preventing him to get there early enough. So they basically, to save their child, they send him off with Bishop.
Yeah.
Is that correct? The Bishop plays with Bishop. They go off together. So they kind of have. He sends them off so the child has a chance of survival, and obviously the child ends up in the future becoming Cable. So they end up in there where they have like a young version of Cable. So you've got all the other X-Men in the future somewhere with a young version of Cable.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens there, because then we get the tease right at the end.
Yeah, of was it one of Gambit's playing cards happens to be in present day Genosha?
Yeah, so this is in present day now, so the X-Men are all gone.
We were saying Geneva, it's Genosha.
Yeah, we all saying Geneva.
Yeah, we said Geneva for the past 25 minutes.
It's Genosha.
But
in
Genosha.
Geneva's a bloody country, isn't it?
We see Gambit's playing cards, which is cool, so hopefully the man is still alive, obviously.
And who's holding the card, Dan?
Was it Apocalypse?
It is.
It is Apocalypse, yeah.
So Apocalypse is currently in the present day with no X-Men to stop him.
Wild.
So fascinating to see where this goes.
I think it's a really ballsy ending, considering this is a season 1 of a revival of a show that was popular in the 90s. I think that in the 90s. I think that's crazy. Like considering for people like me who are just jumping on the train, I think that's a really, really big move. But I think it works. I think it's a really good move, and I think it's a really solid ending for this amazing series 1. I think it's great.
Yeah. No, it is fantastic. I think they as I said, we haven't even mentioned people like Storm, who has like a great arc here where she loses her power very early on and ends up kind of going through a whole sort of arc with. Can you remember his name? I've forgotten his name. For Forge.
Forge.
It's Forge, yeah. So her and Forge end up sort of like. Unfortunately, I think the one thing that's like a slight frustration with this series, and I mean, it's animation, it is what it is, but everyone falls in love way too quickly.
Oh, so quickly, yeah. No, that is like, one thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to happen throughout, but they have a lovely relationship, so like she ends up, it doesn't really, she always had, like, she's almost like a goddess, really, isn't she? Yeah. Storm. So she's always like had the powers. There's a whole sort of arc where she loses her power, comes back, and she has like a whole thing with like death and stuff. It's quite fascinating, that is. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on here, and I'm very, very excited to see where this goes.
I agree, and just to touch on it, episode 3 is basically a horror episode, and it is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's such a sick episode. It's like a haunted house. It is banger. So to wrap up on X-Men 97, what are you going to score this? How's your score looking for X-Men 97?
What are we going out of again? Sorry,
I think we said TV shows 10 out of 10, wasn't it?
I will. Oh, I'm not. Was there anything wrong with this series? Really, was there? I'm going to go a 9.
Sound. I'm there with you. I'm there with you on a 9. I think it's so perfect. I think it's a really solid season 1. I think, as you said, there's a few issues with characters here and there. I think there's a few connections that happen way too fast, and I'm just a little bit like, I feel like I've missed something. And I do almost feel like with all the cameos and the setup, I just want it to last into season 2. I want that season to be awesome, because I don't want this massive setup to be like, oh my god, and then they don't really do anything with it, which I almost have a feeling they're going to do, but I just hope that's not the case. But
yeah, no, it's fascinating to see, isn't it? Because I think with the series 2, the good thing you've got going with it now is the fact that you've almost got a thing where you've got 3 stories going on at the same time, which is going to be difficult. If you can nail it, it's going to be incredible.
Yes, I agree.
It'll be interesting as where they can nail it. Because obviously you've got, the whole the Cyclops and that in Egypt, so that's going to be the birth of Apocalypse. See how they work that in.
Yeah.
You've got everybody else in the future, which is going to be fascinating to see how that works as far as Cable's concerned and stuff, whether they can bring all those together. Obviously, eventually they're going to have to happen and come back into the main, into today, into the present, because Apocalypse can be taken over. But then we've also had all the teasers of all these other people, so whether we'll have a lot of them trying to fight Apocalypse, and then they end up needing the X-Men in the end. So I think there's a lot of possibilities here, which could be an incredible series.
I just hope they do it correctly.
Yeah,
100%.
And I also have complete faith, because I think this is probably the best thing. Well, I mean, let's be honest, Marvel is on an absolute roll at the moment.
Yeah, 2024 seems to be their hot streak, which is good. I think they took their time realizing what they needed to do, and I think this is just another element to that. I think it's really good. So, there we go. That's our thoughts on X-Men 97. Let us know in the comments if you
gone,
agree.
Like, really dark.
Yeah, no, I was about to tell you turn the light on.
Yeah, I will in a minute.
Let us know in the comments how you thought about X-Men 97. Is it your favourite animated show of the year? Is it your favourite show of the year? Would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, and follow us on the socials that you will see on the outro. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.